This is the High School Football America podcast for January the 19th, 2022. I'm Jeff Fisher. The High School Football America podcast is brought to you by GameStrat, America's premier sideline instant replay system with outstanding reliability, faster speed than Huddle Sideline, and GameStrat has awesome customer service. They're even there for you on Friday nights. That's very, very, very important. And they have great plans priced right for every coach's budget. And between now and the end of February, check out their special discounts by going to highschoolfootballamerica.com. To get a demo, go to GameStrat.com, or you can just click on the GameStrat banner ad located on every page of highschoolfootballamerica.com. All right, we're heading to the state of Michigan, the Wolverine State, outside of Lansing, and a guy that got a pretty big honor earlier this week. When the NFHS, the national governing body, comes calling and says, you're the coach of the year for 2021 in high school football, you know how many schools there are around the country, and you're number one. That's a pretty big deal. And DeWitt head coach Rob Zimmerman is on the line to talk about a great program he's built there outside of Lansing, the award itself, and a lot of other things. We got a lot of ground to cover here, Rob, but thanks for taking the time to chat with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
Coach, I do this all the time, and right at the top, make sure everybody knows where we're talking about. Okay, Lansing, that sounds like East Lansing, sounds like Michigan State, but, sometimes everybody's geography isn't that great, so I'm going to have you put on your ambassador cap here for the community and the school and talk a little bit about DeWitt High School and what the community's like and how football fits into the fabric of that community.
Sure. DeWitt is about 10 minutes from Michigan State University and 10 minutes from the capital. So we're right on the outskirts of both East Lansing and Lansing, Michigan. We're the only high school in our community, and football plays a huge role in DeWitt. We've been very fortunate to have great tradition for many, many, many years, and Friday nights are a great event at DeWitt, and certainly one of the best in the state of Michigan. We have a lot of top-level athletic programs, and again, I'm very fortunate to be part of this program and part of this community because it's a tremendous place to live, teach, and coach.
Couple of back-to-back state championship game appearances, winning it. I was going to say you won it in 20, but your 20 championship was actually in early 21, and then this past, right after Thanksgiving, you lost in the championship game to a very good Detroit Martin Luther King game. But I want to take you back to about 23 years ago before taking the head coaching job and those first couple of days. I always like to hear from coaches on those building blocks. What do you think you did right, 2+ decades ago that set the tone for what you've established there and accomplished through the decades?
Well, I think the biggest thing was putting together a plan of exactly what we wanted to try to do and how we were going to go about it, kind of a blueprint for what we thought the success, what we needed to do to be successful. So obviously in any really good program, your work ethic being established for your kids is super important. And so that was kind of the driving force in getting all the off season, the weight programs, 7-on-7s, all that type of stuff. I mean, at that point, that was getting a lot bigger and really just starting to get rolling. So I think that the very best thing that we did was put together a plan, and it was a very detailed plan as to how we wanted to go about things. And then obviously you have to put together a great coaching staff. And, with that work ethic, you have to develop a great relationship with kids. And that was also a top priority for us to spend time with them and be committed ourselves and make sure they understood we cared about them as young men and to build that whole team culture that's so important in any sport, but particularly football.
Sure. We're talking with Rob Zimmerman, head coach at DeWitt High School in Michigan. He is the 2020-21 NFHS Coach of the Year, National Coach of the Year, a big honor for him there. And Coach, you mentioned during that little soliloquy there, when I told you to become the ambassador, that you are a one-school town, and that's, a dying thing, as you and I talked about before I rolled the tape here. Talk a little bit about what you have feeder-wise, because, we all know around the country that's played such an important role in all football programs. I would assume you guys have a pretty strong one, and how much of a hand do you have in that? Is everybody, thinking, hey, I want to be that DeWitt High player come whatever it is. If I'm 8, I want to be there when I'm 16, that sort of thing?
We do have that, and that's been a big part of our success. Our youth program has been very strong for many years before I got here, and we just tried to add to it. And I think the key is obviously getting those youth coaches that want the kids to learn our system. They run our program, and in particularly the older they get in the youth program, the more they're just like us. So the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are almost identical to what we do at the high school level. And having those coaches that buy into, hey, we're helping these kids to become great players for DeWitt when they get to the high school is so important. And we've had that. We've had a lot of volunteer guys that are willing to do that and are willing to put the time in to learn our system and to be great coaches for us. And we do have that atmosphere where the kids that are young, they want to be the next, like this year, Tommy McIntosh that's going to Wisconsin, and Ty Holtz, who was a 2-time All-State quarterback. They want to be the next guy, and those guys are living legends in our communities, the varsity players, particularly when we've had the success we've been fortunate enough to have as of late. And so it's a great thing to watch, too. Those young guys grow up wanting to be DeWitt Panthers, and we don't have any feeder system other than our middle school in DeWitt. So we don't have school of choice in the high school. We don't get transfers. We have DeWitt kids, and that's it. And so our young guys growing up wanting to be the next great player that we've had at the high school level. And it's pretty neat to watch after the games on Friday nights, all those little guys down on the field wanting to get autographs and just spend some time with our players, knowing that, they potentially could be that next guy. So it's a great thing to be a part of. I'm
loving the fact that you're still old school like that. Imagine that. One school, one town, and everybody wants to play there when they get older. That's a great thing. Well, it takes me to a thought. It's kind of a two-part question. You've been there a while, 2+ decades. Just curious, about the longevity on your staff. Do you have a lot of guys there that have been there a while? Let's get some names in there, guys that, because, when you win an award like this on the national level, your name's on it, but there's a lot of other people. And then the second part of the question, you can take this however you want, is usually in a community like this, once, they go to college and graduate, if they have even the slightest inkling of being a coach, they like to usually come back and give back. Do you have a lot of guys that do that in the community? Any of those guys on the staff?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with any good program, you have continuity and you have longevity out of your coaching staff. And so I've had several guys with me for 15+ years, John Bertocca, Tim Williams, Kyle Haskell, and then I have some middle level guys that have been there in the 12-13, Phil Wilson and Brandon Renneker, and then we have some younger guys. And the second part of the question that you asked, we're very fortunate that we have a lot of former players. I believe I have 21 coaches on our high school staff, and 9 of them are former players, which is just a great thing for our staff. The guys want to come back and be a part of it. They understand the expectations, and they want to see the success continue. And so that's been a really, really big part of the success that we've had, is having so many former players be on our staff. So I am very fortunate to have a great mix of veteran coaches that have been with me a long time and some younger guys, and then certainly the former players. It's just been a great thing and certainly a big part of the reason we've had the success we've had.
Talking with Rob Zimmerman, the head coach at DeWitt, over 20 years at the school. They've done some great things through the years. And Coach, because we have so many coaches from the profession that listen to this podcast, I always like to try and give some nuggets. And here's one that I always love, is when that kid finally does come back, right? You've been kind of getting on his butt a little bit through the years, blowing that whistle in his ear, but now he's got his own whistle. What you got any nuggets there, some tidbits for coaches? What's it like, and what are some of the things you do to make those kids that you had coached up for so long, now coaching them into being coaches, I guess is the best way to put it?
I think, honestly, it's pretty easy. I mean, the biggest thing when they're playing for you is knowing that you care, right? Knowing that you care about them as young men and in the program. And when they know that you care, then they give you everything when they're part of the program, and they develop that desire to want to be a part of it. And I think so many of them, because we spend so much time with them, they understand the expectations. And so the transfer from player to eventually coach is not a real difficult process. And if you have that relationship built with them when they were a player, when they're now back as a coach, if you do need to have a more serious talk, then they understand what you're trying to accomplish and that you're just trying to make them better. So it's really not a very difficult process if you treated them right when they were part of your program and they had a great experience.
What an 18-month run for you guys, COVID and all, right? You started 2020 in 2020, which is normal. You ended 2020 in January of 21, winning a state championship, and then, of course, right around the corner is the fall of 21, and you guys get a runner-up finish. I was just curious, looking back now that you've had maybe a month and a half or 2 months to breathe on it. Do you realize what you did? What were some of the biggest hurdles? What were some of the things that put a smile on your face? Can you lay those out for us?
Sure. Well, certainly the biggest hurdle was the fact that, we had to deal with COVID like everybody else did. And when we got our season going, I think we had 4 or 5 different stoppages in play in 2020 throughout the season. And when we got to the playoffs, we had 80 days off from our last game. And then we had to start up with what would have been the equivalent of the quarterfinals. And we had a team forfeit, so we didn't play a quarterfinal game. So we had to go into the semifinals against one of the top programs in Michigan after more than 80 days off. So that was a huge challenge for us. And during the entire time, we had to test 3 times a week for COVID. And if anybody tested positive, then they were out. And so you never knew what you were going to have. And that was the beginning of it, and so it was very difficult from a mental standpoint for the kids and for obviously for us as coaches. And I think the key for us was that we had great leadership on that team, and those kids just kept the nose to the grindstone and stayed focused, and they were willing to make the sacrifices that they needed to make with decision making, with who they're around, and taking chances. And they were all in with trying to win a state championship. And so we were fortunate enough to be able to get to that point. And this year was much different because we didn't have the same type of obstacles. We had a lot of those same kids back that were very successful the previous year in winning a state championship. And so we had great experience. But, if I look back on the things that stood out the most, obviously winning a state championship was great for us, and being there again was outstanding. But I think the kids that we got to work with the last couple of years, just such great character young men that really did everything that you could possibly ask of them. And, have put our program where it's at because of the commitment that they made, the leadership that they displayed, the character that these kids all had. And just a great honor to coach the young men that we have. Many, many years of great kids here, but the last 2 in particular.
We'll get to some of those names in just a second, but I'm sure there's some coaches around the country listening to your little description there of what happened in 2020 and playing a championship game in January in Michigan in the North going, what the heck? We didn't even play in 2020. Where does the credit lie as far as those stoppages starting up again, going as deep as you did into January to hand out the championship trophies? I'm sure it's a team effort, but what do you feel kind of came together to make that happen? Because there was probably every reason to stop at some point, right?
Yeah, no question. Honestly, Mark Ewell and the employees at the Michigan High School Athletic Association deserve a big round of applause for keeping our seasons going in Michigan, because they certainly could have shut things down, and they were bound and determined to get through the entire year and have all 3 sports. So certainly need to say something about the Michigan High School Athletic Association. And then, I think from our own standpoint, just not only the kids, but our administrators, our athletic director, Mike Bry, all the testing that him and our athletic trainer, Steve Jenkins, did, just those 2 guys. And they had to not only do the testing, but they had to input all the results every single day, and test the number of athletes that they had to test was just an incredible task on their part. And then I also think for us, our parents, were so helpful because they understood what we were trying to accomplish, and they were willing to help. And, in this current environment, as you know, for the last couple of years, there's a lot of political things that come into that too, and differing views on COVID and what's okay and what's not okay with the mask and all that stuff. And we had total buy-in to help the kids be able to play. And there's a lot to be said for that too, because there certainly is a lot of difficulties with that type of thing still right now.
Yeah, and I joke with a lot of coaches around the country that with everything you guys had to go through with the testing and all that, you all should have, instead of HC in front of your name, doctor. So with that being said, we're talking to Dr. Rob Zimmerman, head coach at DeWitt High School. And you mentioned a couple of young men earlier during this interview, and you said a lot of kids kind of overlapped the two seasons. Would love to get some of the names in there, some of the leaders of the program that brought you to back-to-back state championship games at Ford Field there this past Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. Well, so our 2020 team, a young man named Andrew Debris, that was a 3-year starter for us. Connor Pocher was also a 3-year starter, and Grant Ewell was a 2-year captain. And those guys were just great leaders as seniors 2 years ago. They helped us, stay on track and focus to be able to get through that whole thing. So I think their leadership carried over to this year, and we had 4 3-year starters on this team that played a huge role in the 2020 team. And those are Tyler Holtz, who's a quarterback going to Brown, Tommy McIntosh, receiver that's going to Wisconsin, Bryce Debris, who has multiple offers but yet to decide, and our 4th one is Nick Flegler, who is a young man that's going to play at Air Force. And so those 7 kids all played an instrumental role in our success the last 2 years. Even though the guys from 2 years ago are gone, what they did from a leadership standpoint carried over to this season, and those guys this year just took over for them.
Since I met you, full disclosure here, we became friends thanks to your good buddy and my good buddy, Noel Dean, the Hall of Fame coach there from Michigan, now coaching down here in Georgia where I live. And one of the things you talked about first was just the importance of academics within your program, meaning the student athlete is always coming first. Talk a little bit about how you view that and the success you guys have had in the classroom.
Well, DeWitt is definitely an academically oriented community. Education is very important, obviously within the school, but also with our parents. So we're blessed to have a community that pushes academics, and the kids understand growing up that it's a very, very important thing. There's a lot of kids with big goals and aspirations once they graduate. A lot of kids going on to very good academic universities. So that certainly helps us from a football standpoint. And with what we do on both sides of the ball, our kids have to be pretty sharp. We're able to run a pretty complex system on both sides, and their ability to retain and to understand what we're doing certainly is a benefit to us from a program standpoint. And we are proud of our academic success. Our program has been first team academic All-State in Michigan for the last nine years, and we feel like that's one of our greatest, if not greatest, accomplishments for those young men to do so well from an academic standpoint.
No doubt about it. Doesn't hurt to have smart football players, right, Coach?
No, absolutely. Great plus for us.
They make you look smart, especially if they can play the game. We're talking with Rob Zimmerman, the head coach at DeWitt High School in Michigan, outside of Lansing. Just a great program there. He is the 2021 NFHS National Football Coach of the Year, one of 23 winners. And when I met you down in South Georgia last year, at that point you were the Detroit Lions Coach of the Year. You ended up runner-up for the Don Shula Award, and I was just curious, what that meant to you, especially when the Lions and the NFL in general are doing more reaching down into the high school ranks to whether it's giving you guys some money that helps programs, to getting you recognition. What does that mean for you, and what did the award itself mean to you?
Well, certainly the money that goes towards the program is a huge plus, with receiving it for the Lions Award and then also receiving it from the NFL for the runner-up. We received, I think, $15,500 for our program. So that was money that we're able to use in some areas that normally we don't have the money for. So that was greatly appreciated. And, I think the next thing that goes with it is just the recognition that it gets for our kids. As I've spoken, we have had just such great character kids that have done everything right and have worked so hard that to any recognition that I get or we get as coaches is a reflection on our kids and then our community. And so that's a tremendous honor for them in particular. And I'm just so proud of anything that we're able to get, because it shows what those kids were able to do and should make them even more proud of what they've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's a nice little carrot too on the end of that stick too. What's that thing called? Super Bowl? Because you're running. Hey, you looking forward to that? I think I know the answer, but I'll ask the dumb media question. You looking forward to that?
I can't wait. And here's the other thing. So every coach, the wives put in so much time, and my wife is no different. Christina has been such a big part of our program, and obviously I've been coaching for a long time, and for me to be able to take her with me to LA and go to the Super Bowl and enjoy a really nice weekend. She's super excited. And so that's probably the neatest thing about that is I get to do something nice for her because of all of her efforts with football. So we can't wait. I mean, it's obviously not far away and very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun for you. And, lots of things flying through my mind here. I know you're part of the Michigan High School Football Coaches Association, the executive committee and all that. And I'd like you to take a few moments to talk about, and again, it's kind of like putting the ambassador's hat on, but talk a little bit about the organization, what it's doing for the profession in Michigan, and just high school football in general in Michigan, kind of the state of the state, if you will, for the Wolverine state. Can you take that challenge on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our coaching association has done a tremendous job, and the biggest challenge right now is with the changing landscape with the college game is trying to keep up and do everything that we can to help promote football and to help promote these kids that are playing the game. So we've made a lot of changes over the years, but I think we do a great job with our all-star game. And our clinic this year that we just finished last weekend was the biggest one that we've ever had. I think there's 2,300 people that were registered for it. And so they were very, very happy with the outcome of how it went. We had some very, very big name speakers and it was an outstanding event. We have a senior showcase that we've done that's been a great thing for kids that are unsigned yet, and that's a promising thing. And so, I just really think that we have a lot of guys that are very committed to the game that are doing everything they can to try to help high school football in Michigan and continue to evolve with the changing game, as I said, from the college level. So I'm very proud to be a part of it, and I think they're doing a very good job to try and help our kids.
And then just kind of, the game itself, because, we like to, pop our chests out a little bit. I'm the Pennsylvania guy that, went out to California and said, oh, we could beat you. And then we did one game, which I really loved. But anyway, we all want to, be proud of the states that we're from. How would you put the state of the state, if you will, of the game there? Because I know you guys play some quality football there.
Well, I honestly think, and yes, I'm biased because I'm from Michigan, but I honestly think that the football is very, very good right now. We've put a lot of kids in Division I, and in Detroit in particular, that area has put a lot of kids in major Division I programs. It's a heavily recruited area in the country, and for good reason. There's an awful lot of good players coming out of there. And, I think we certainly have some obstacles with not having spring football. Our weather certainly makes it difficult for us to be able to do something like that. So our programs don't get to do quite as much, and we maybe have a few more restrictions than some of the other states as far as what we're able to do. But with that being said, I think our coaches have done a very good job, and we've continued to gotten better in the state of Michigan. And I know there's a ton of great football out there, and I'm not comparing us to anybody else, but I do think that we've done a really nice job, and that our coaches have continued to improve, and we do put a lot of kids in college football for no bigger of a state than we are from a population standpoint.
You did a nice job of dancing around that, a little coach speak in there and all that. Being in the media, I can be just cocky about it and just say, hey, but I've lived in enough places around the nation to make some determinations, and I usually get some crap later on when I show up someplace from people, but that's neither here nor there. Rob Zimmerman is on the line. He is the 2020-2021 NFHS National Football Coach of the Year. He's the head coach at DeWitt High School, Division III school in Michigan, and Coach, we saved the best for last. You talked a little bit about the Lions Award, but this one is pretty big too. It's what are we, 15,000 maybe 11-man football programs in the nation, and your name is at the top of the list. What's that mean to you?
I look at it, I guess, the same way as I do with the Lions Award. Again, it's just a great reflection on our program and so many people that have had a huge role in what we've been able to accomplish. And when we get asked about our continued success over the years, there's so many people that have a big hand. Our youth program, our high school as a whole, the administrators, our community. I feel like I have the best coaching staff in the state of Michigan, and having the continuity that we have certainly has played a big role. So all of those things factor into it, and this award is just another reflection on our program and the many people over the years for a long period of time that have helped to build it. So, I mean, that's basically how I look at it. Certainly a great award. I'm incredibly humbled by it, but it's an award that goes to our program because of the continued success that we've had.
Yeah, no doubt about that. If memory serves me correctly, after we met, I think you said your dad may have checked out highschoolfootballamerica.com a little bit. So what did Dad think of the award?
Well, he's a dad, right? So he's very, very proud, as every dad is going to be, right? And he certainly has followed your website, and he's not a big Twitter guy, so he looks at the website more. But when he found out about it, he was definitely proud. And little side note, my dad's one of those guys that's always been there. He's never missed a game in my 23 years actually now 26 years total of being a head coach. He's never missed one. So he's a huge high school football fan, and that was a pretty neat thing for him to be able to see that for sure.
That's neat. What in your dad is in you as it relates to, the coach, the man? Do you, after all these years, do you see a little bit of dad in you or not? It usually is the case.
Absolutely. He was a guy that took a job at General Motors when he was 18 and didn't go to college and worked his way all the way up to second highest level engineer in GM. And so I tell you that because he's always had just a phenomenal work ethic. And I think that's probably my greatest attribute is I'm not afraid to work. And, when our kids work and they understand the importance of having a great work ethic. And so that's probably the biggest thing that I took from him. But you would see an awful lot of him and me. I'm not the man that he is yet, but I certainly look up to him and the many great qualities that he has.
Something to strive for. Rob Zimmerman, the 2020-21 National Federation Coach of the Year in football, also the runner-up for the Don Shula Award. Congratulations, Coach. I know, you're around long enough, you win some stuff, but you don't win stuff like this unless you're doing it the right way, and that's not just wins and losses and X's and O's. It's everything you're doing for the football community there in DeWitt. So congratulations. I've been happy to get to know you. I'm glad you happened to stop in when I was hanging out with Noel Dean, and now we got a little friendship going here. So thank you for taking the time with me, and again, congratulations on an outstanding job there for the young men at DeWitt.
Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate you having me on, and likewise, it was great having the opportunity to meet you, and I appreciate everything you do for high school football. It's a huge blessing for all of us in this country.
Well, thank you very much. And the High School Football America podcast is brought to you by GameStrat, America's premier sideline instant replay system with outstanding reliability, with faster speed than Huddle sideline, and awesome customer service. GameStrat knows how to take care of its clients. They also have great plans priced right for every coach's budget, with special discounts between now and the end of February. To get a demo, go to GameStrat.com, or you can click on the GameStrat banner ad that's located on every page of highschoolfootballamerica.com.